the magnet. Now, which side is red shifted and which side is blue shifted? One side's more blue than the other. That way you could actually tell which pole is which. This is blue shifted. This is
my
more
good
red shifted.
friend
so
here,
this side is
my
the south
favorite
pole. Let's place it
guy that talks about magnetism. This man knows what he's talking about.
The supercell key.
Absolutely.
And we can zoom in a little bit more.
And
center it a little bit better. There we go.
Came to realize.
See the black spot in the middle? Everybody
just
says,
the other
that
day.
looks like a black hole on it.
Just yesterday.
It is right here. That's the acceleration, increasing inertia.
What I saw.
And over here, it's kind of hard to see in the dark, but now
I came to
a ring
realize
magnet, of course, is shaped exactly like
right
a torus,
here.
even though it's a flat torus, it's still the same. A magnet doesn't actually have a magnetic field. It is a point source object that's actually creating constructive and destructive interference and an ambextra field relative to the medium. Where we have absolutely nothing, well, you see the exact same thing here in the middle where there is nothing as you do around each and every magnet. Because the field is not being emitted by the magnet. Looks like a spirograph, right? A spirograph is, of course, a hypertrochoid pattern. The reason why I'm moving it around, you can see if I remove it away quite quickly, it starts to pool the nanoparticles of
watch
the
everything that he does
fluid. But this
with
is real
this
time. Once again, this
ring
is not
magnet.
projection. And these lines that we're seeing, I've proven endlessly, including one light source, that being the sun, to show that we're not looking at the LED. Well, you're looking at the lines, you're just looking at the LEDs. And that's not the case at all. It's 100% undeniable.
Okay, now.
If actually were to get down here in an
Hang
angle,
on.
you could actually see the torus in the middle here. I'll unmount the phone, my little camera, or look at it at a drastic angle. I'm going to use my little crayon to move it around. You can actually see the donut there. If I get it at a steeper angle, you can actually see it ab extra around here, and you can see it also too right here.
Look at that.
In the center, as if I start to
see
tilt
the
up, you can
two
actually see the hole
dark
here. So we got a
spots?
hole inside of a hole. That little hole right there where the dielectric is, i.e. the rest point. Everything seeks a rest point. The field geometry of the dielectric is a hyperboloid or an hourglass shape. Of course, the field geometry of the magnetic is a torus. Of course,
two-dimensional
the wonderful thing about ring magnets
stereographic projection
is that the magnet is already in the shape of the magnetic field,
the
so
loss
it
of
creates
inertia.
interesting geometry. However, it never changes between the torus and the hyperboloid, but when you actually have the magnetic field that's the exact same shape as the physical magnet itself, you get this interesting pattern in the middle, which of course is just another donut or another torus, but it's kind of like a donut within a donut.
Fucking inner Earth
Let's
right
actually
there.
put the camera back.
And flat
It's time
Earth.
for you to get your reading super powered. So stop straining your eyes and start listening instead.
I have to do a lot of.
Back up here. Sorry about that for the noise on the microphone.
Flat
And then we'll zoom in.
fucking
and then we'll
Earth. That's the
place,
2D.
The ring magnet. You see a slight burn-in? Just a slight burn-in where the ferroparticles
That,
are
my
actually
friends, is the
pooling.
2D.
Once again, there's nothing projected here. When you take the glass out of here, these are pieces of tape to actually hold.
Okay, so where's that picture? Where is it? Okay.
Oh, you're looking at the lines, you're just looking at the LEDs. And that's not the case at all. It's 100% undeniable. If I actually were to get down here in an angle, you could actually see the torus in the middle here. I'll unmount the phone, my little camera, or look at it at a drastic angle. I'm going to use my little crayon to move it around. You can actually see the donut there. If I get it at a steeper angle, you can actually see it ab extra around here, and you can see it also too right here in the center. As if I start to tilt up, you can actually see the hole here. So we got a hole inside of a hole. That little hole right there where the dielectric is, i.e. the rest point. Everything seeks a rest point. The field geometry of the dielectric is a hyperboloid or an hourglass shape. Of course, the field geometry of the magnetic is a torus. Of course, the wonderful thing about ring magnets is that the magnet is already in the shape of the magnetic field, so it creates interesting geometry. However, it never changes between the torus and the hyperboloid, but when you actually have the magnetic field that's the exact same shape as the physical magnet itself, you get this interesting pattern in the middle, which of course is just another donut or another torus, but it's kind of like a donut within a donut. Yeah, let's actually put the camera back up here. Sorry about that for the noise on the microphone. And then we'll zoom in, and then we'll place the the ring magnet. You see a slight burn-in, just a slight burn-in where the ferroparticles are actually pooling. Once again, there's nothing projected here. When you take the glass out of here, these are pieces of tape to actually hold the glass together, because this is super sensitive, and this is a new ferrofluid that I got, and there's just freezer tape holding it together at 3 points on the glass. There's literally just 3 drops of liquid between the glass. You smash the glass together very gently in a certain way. Most of the liquid squirts out the sides. You wipe off that, and you're just left with like a tenth of a drop of liquid across the entire surface of this 60-millimeter blank of glass. And the actual light is interfering, constructive and destructive interference, the same thing in the dual slit experiment that you actually see, and that's what you do see in the dual slit experiment, is constructive and destructive interference. Let's place the ring magnet back up underneath there, and let's place it on top. Let's see if we can zoom in anymore. No, I can't zoom in anymore. Let's place it a little bit over there, closer in, and let's get focused. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah.
Yeah.
We see a donut here, a physical donut right here. That's the actual ring magnet, and another donut out here. So we actually have a torus, a physical torus of the ring magnet, and another torus in here where there is no physical magnet, and yet the magnetic field is there. So we actually have the torus of the entirety of the magnet, as you see the periphery out here. And we actually have an inner torus right here, and then we have a torus in the hole. So we got a black hole inside of a black hole, or a torus inside of another torus inside of another torus, or a donut inside of a donut inside of a donut, right? Let me actually move that around a little bit, take the camera out and get down on an angle, because everybody kind of likes to see the holographic effect. Yeah, that's just freezer tape right there. You can see that. That's just holding the glass together so the pieces of glass don't slide apart.
Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico. Binary figures which constituted a graphic code presenting key factors about humans and the planet we live on. 27 years.
Right here.
A screen technique, the same that's used for printing a picture on paper.
Which is 2D.
Was discovered which was different from any other previously seen. From the ground it looked like a tangled mess. Wisps of crop spread around in no system. However, in the evening with growing shadows, a picture appeared. Unmistakably that of a face. That picture represented a whole new technique, a screen technique, the same that's used for printing a picture on paper. 3 days later, the face was joined by something that looked like a data strip. Rows of counters made out of standing and flattened crop. But soon an astonishing similarity is discovered. In 1974, the astronomer Carl Sagan composed a message that NASA sent into space from the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico. Binary figures which constituted a graphic code presenting key factors about humans and the planet we live on. 27 years later, an identical pattern appears in a crop field right in front of a similar radio telescope. However, on closer inspection, it seemed to show that the code contained some fundamental differences. Sagan's message explained our calculation system, the dominant chemical substances within the elements that create life on Earth, about our DNA code, humans' height and quantity, and that we live on the third planet in our solar system. And lastly, a sketch of our radio telescope. The message received described the same calculation system, but that silicon is most dominant in life forms in contrast to carbon. The drawing also clearly shows a humanoid figure with large head in relation to its body. It's also explained that they have an extra string in their DNA, are approximately 4 feet tall, inhabit the third, fourth and fifth planets in their solar system, and have a population of around 21.3 billion. Underneath, the telescope has been replaced by something more complex. 1 year earlier, a strange crop circle had appeared in the same place. Is this the same illustration as in the sender's code? Is this the correspondence radio telescope? If this is not an extremely clever and well-calculated joke conducted
both
by
of
humans,
those are
is it a
2D,
serious response from
two-dimensional.
an alien civilization?
Now, the next one.
The following year, very nearly on the same day, a
This
new
one's really
picture appears
interesting.
that gives new force to the alien theory, this time in Crabwood, near the town of Winchester in Hampshire.
I gotta go get a jump.
Once again, we see a face, but this time there is an unmistakable resemblance to something extraterrestrial. The picture also contains a print, somewhat similar to that of a CD, with something that appears to be a coded message. This formation also has a new type of design, this time with horizontal line patterns of variable thickness, similar to that of a TV picture. The message on the disc is similar to a spiral band built up of many boxes. But data expert Paul Weige manages to decipher the message.
And I had to enlarge the disc quite substantially on the computer and run some image analysis over it to make it clear so that I could see what was a standing tuft and what was flattened. And while I was doing this, I noticed that every so often there was almost a mistake in the diagram. It was like there was a tuft, where the little square of tuft, it had done sort of half size. I thought that's a bit odd, and it seemed fairly regular. I was going round and I sort of counted up, and it was sort of literally every sort of 8 bytes or whatever, and I thought, oh, 8 bytes, and yeah, from computer side, it's obviously some sort of binary code. So then I did the straightforward thing. I just converted it into ASCII, which is the standard sort of computer language that you encode the alphabet in. And of course I then started to get words forming out, and I thought, I'm getting somewhere here. So I then did the whole thing for the whole lot, and got this message.
The message is in English and reads as follows. Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. There is good out there. We oppose deception. Conduit closing. Many have been surprised by this message. Are there aliens with such faces that we should be aware of? Or is this a picture of the sender? Does this indicate the start of actual close contact with neighbors in the universe?
That's three-dimensional.
My only hypothesis, belief about this is that there's an effort of the extraterrestrials are gradually trying to communicate with us.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, yeah. Those dark eyes. Just like that fucking... Yeah. Okay. So we'll go to this. Stop. No. Yeah, it's recording still. Okay, so stop.